what did you see in me before you gave me a yes? I think everybody really wants to know. 5 months to our wedding, I was still squatting in my mom's house at this time.
Yeah.
And you still gave me a yes. We're having that conversation. I personally was scared.
There was fear. Oh my
Crazy
God.
fear.
I had fear of the unknown. I was not married with someone who was starting life. How was I going to be taken care of? That's the truth. That was another fear of my unknown. How was I sure that this man, will be there, will not treat me like the way my dad treated me and all of that? So I had all of these fears mixed up.
Even a pastor reached out to you.
Oh, yes.
Our pastors reached out to you and said, you shouldn't marry me because I don't have a future, I don't have direction, I don't have purpose.
Even though, my parents around me, people around me said to me that this is not somebody you should end up with, I saw a man who was great. I was self-convinced.
Hey, hello viewers. This is the Winlos. Yeah, and you're welcome to our podcast channel. So this morning we're going to be discussing something very, very critical. I think it's very important for every lady to know, and also for guys as well to prepare in order to meet the right one. And it's about what you should look out for before you give a guy a yes. Yeah, so I'm going to start really, really fast by asking my wife what she saw in me before she gave me a yes. What did you see in me before you gave me a yes? I think everybody really wants to know, considering the fact that I actually did not start from where I am now. I was broke, busted, and disgusted. I was practically squatting in my pastor's house and also staying in my mom's house when you gave me a yes. And to think that we dated for a year plus, and then 5 months to our wedding, I was still squatting in my mom's house at this time. And you still gave me a yes. What really did you see in me? Not many people would want to go through these routes. To date somebody like me. I know my picture is going to be up right now, so you see the kind of person we're talking about. So a beautiful girl like you who was already working in the city of Warri, and you met this guy who is practically hustling, just a church boy. So what did you see that you gave me a yes?
Yeah. So I want to first of all, re-edit something you said. Let me see what re-edit. You said someone who was a church boy, right? And then I said, yes, I didn't marry a church boy. I married a Christian. Yeah, because I've come to realize that you don't marry venue. You marry a person who is submitted to God. So I married a man that was submitted to God, and he's still submitted to God. Yeah. I married someone that fears God, not just a theoretical Christian, not someone who would, post a caption and then write #Christian. No, he had a life tag. He had the lifestyle of a Christian. So I saw fruits. I saw fruits beyond his speaking about it. I saw fruits beyond his speech. I saw him demonstrate the life of a Christian. And then another thing that made me say yes to you is you were not, even though I met you broke, you were diligently broke. I never said face to say it. Yeah.
I was diligently broke.
Yes.
Yeah, can you explain that?
He was you were hardworking. Like you were a very hardworking person, and not just random hard work. You were focused on that thing that you wanted to do. Yeah, you were one who had a vision and you were running with it. Yeah. So because you see I've seen men before I met you who would say, I'm going to be a CEO. I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. Nice. There's nothing wrong with it about speaking your plans, but you were running with what you were saying. You were a runner. You were not just a speaker. You were running with it. You were running with your vision.
So I think the point was this. I really wasn't that person that was distracted.
Yes, you were not distracted.
Because I remember when we attended the same church as well too. I just finished my youth service, and at 22,
Yeah, 2020.
I had registered my company immediately.
Yes.
And I said, this is what I was going to do.
Yes.
I was going to look for a job.
Yes.
I was going to work in the bank.
Yes.
I just wanted to start my company immediately.
Yes.
And I was running.
Yes. He was so focused even though he was broke. So I knew that if a guy could be that focused, then he'll be able to bring out a whole lot. He'll be able to multiply. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that it's not about the money.
It's not about the money, no.
The money in the pocket.
Yes.
does the person has vision?
The person have vision.
Talking vision, walking vision, not just vision.
Yes.
Yes,
it wasn't, you were not just talking vision, you were walking it out.
Yeah.
That's the truth. People fall for speech, but I was not ready for that because I had seen too many counterfeits.
Motivational speakers.
Too many motivational speakers.
Yeah.
I'm going to be these 10 things I will be. I didn't want the 10 things I will be. I wanted to see someone who was wrong, even though it wasn't 10 things.
Yeah.
So you were focused on that one thing, and you were diligent with it.
Even when I was diligent, the truth was that I was making little money.
Yeah, of course, yes.
So it's not about the big money.
Yes.
It's that even you can get 10 naira, 5 naira, 2 naira.
Yes.
So I remember those days, you used to get me the expensive gifts. I can't even afford those expensive gifts.
Yes.
But then I will, I'll buy the
you make
little
sacrifice,
I can buy.
yes.
Yeah, the little I can buy. I can decide to send you 500 naira recharge card. I just say, I just send this to you, 200 naira recharge card. Just say, I say this to you.
Yes, you were responsible.
Yes, I was responsible. So I wasn't one lazy guy depending on a lady.
Yes.
So despite the fact that you had stops going for you, I could support.
Yes.
Support. I think that was attractive as well too.
Yeah, that was very attractive for me, that it didn't matter the amount of money you were willing to go. And then through you, I realized that okay, let me just say through you, and then it's for ladies as well, it's not about the expensive things, about the commitment, the consistency in it. Yeah, you were one that was consistent with your commitment.
Yeah.
Even though I do not have much, in my little, I would give. So through you, I realized that, it doesn't take much to give, it takes a heart to give.
Yeah. So many times when people want to give much, it's basically because they want to buy the girl. You want to buy, you just want to win her, you just want to impress her. Giving is not about you trying to impress somebody, it's your nature. You give because it's your nature. You're not trying to buy the person, you're not trying to impress the person.
Yes.
I remember one of those days I bought you one fake wristwatch and all that.
I will never forget it.
Yeah, so I could have gone to borrow money to go buy,
Yes.
So it's not about trying to impress. It's just doing what you have.
Yes.
And the lady that loves you will stay with you because you are real.
Yes. Yes. And that's a very beautiful point, because I think why most guys do that kind of thing, or some guys do that, is because they're trying to force acceptance. You didn't try to force yourself or me or where you were going to. Even though I wasn't really quite comfortable with the fact that you were going to be a pastor. And then I remember even before you got to the point where you're going to be a pastor, I saw it also, even beyond you saying it. You wanted to be a police officer. Hey! I couldn't even imagine myself in barracks. But you didn't try to pull out of your conviction. This is who you are. Is it I take it? You didn't tell me take it or leave it, but you didn't try to, because values are not negotiated. Your vision cannot be negotiated. It's not tomatoes or pepper that you buy in the market.
That's true.
So that's something. So a lot of guys try to force acceptance, force their vision on ladies so they can accept them. So in that way, they have to try to push, do a lot of things
or
to
even
impress.
Change their values as well, to change their belief system, to change their goals.
Yes.
You see some people, because you want to marry this girl, and the girl says, I don't like the fact you're abroad. You say, because of you, I will relocate.
That's deep. Yes, that's true.
I don't like your church.
Yes.
Then the guy say, because of you, I'm going to change my church. And they are so quick to change their vision and their value.
Yeah.
And the truth is that it can be scary for ladies. It's actually not attractive. You may look at it as sacrifice, but the lady wants to marry a guy that is strong-willed, on his purpose and assignment.
Focus.
Focus is key.
Focus is key. So you were really real with yourself. Yeah, you didn't try to hype me one day. You didn't look at me like, oh, this lady's so beautiful. I need to borrow to impress. I need to lie about what I'm receiving. You were real. You were naked and not ashamed. Even though you may have been ashamed at first, but this was just it. And I had to fly with you because I accepted you for you as well. So this is also to guys too. When you meet a lady that doesn't accept you for you, you can flee. It's not compulsory, because in the bit of trying to force acceptance, you become unreal to yourself and you meet an unreal lady. Yeah. When you're not real to yourself, you always attract and entertain fake people around you.
True. Yeah. So I think one of the major challenges ladies will face as well too is dealing with fear, especially coming to get married to somebody like me who was seriously broke.
Oh, that's true.
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown, yeah.
So when I was asking you out in Asaba, and we're having that conversation, I personally was scared.
I was.
Because I was going to get married to this lady who has her own life, I was going to take her into my life where it seems like there's no direction, you know. So how did you deal with this fear? Wanting to take me as your lead, your leader. How did you deal with this fear?
That's a very, very powerful question. And so I had fear, that's the truth. I mean, and what still was your state, what I met, you know, even though you were hardworking, you didn't really have the, you know, the finance going, you know, and all of that. So how did I deal with the fear? You know, I had to take it to God in prayers. I need to see beyond, because
so was there fear?
There was fear. Oh my
Crazy
God.
Fear.
I had fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown with, number one, my fear of the unknown was I've never been married before. I didn't even know how marriage was going to be. I mean, even for people who have been married before, you're never married to the same person.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so I was never married before. Then number two, I was not married with someone who was starting life. How was I going to, you know, deal with a whole lot? You know, how was I going to be taken care of? That's the truth. That was another fear of my unknown. You know, how was I sure that, you know, even especially for me, was coming from a broken home, how was I sure that this man, you know, will be there, will not treat me like the way my dad treated me and all of that? So I had all of these fears mixed up, you know. But what helped me was, number one, I had my individual relationship with God. I wasn't waiting on a man to know how God speaks. I had my relationship with God. I knew how God spoke to me. It wasn't the season of my life when I was going to say yes to that. I wanted to hear God for myself. I've been hearing him for when I wanted to board that bus. I've been hearing for when I wanted to walk on the road. I've been hearing for all those periods of my life. So I was used to hearing him. So when I was going to say yes to him and I was scared, I took my fear to God. I surrendered my fear to God. And when I prayed through it, I began to see you beyond your presence. I saw a man who was great. I was self-convinced that even though, you know, my parents around me, people around me said to me that, you know, this person is not it. This person is not, this is another person that's going to use you. This is not somebody you should end up with. I mean, my parents, mentors I trusted, in quotes, they did everything they could to pull me out, you know, but I was self-convinced. I heard God for myself. I found peace. I found peace in spirit, not flesh. Because you can find peace in flesh. You say, I'm at peace with this guy because probably he's nice and caring and all of that. No.
He had big chest.
He had big chest, But me, I had peace in my spirit that this guy is the one.
Because as you are talking now, I can remember some of those incidents where even a pastor reached out to you.
Oh, yes.
Pastors reached out to you and said, you shouldn't marry me because I don't have a future, I don't have direction, I don't have purpose. Even some of your friends gave you that advice.
Oh, yes.
And basically because I was that laughing person who actually wasn't serious. You know, that I just laugh and play. So I'm unassuming, so people can't even tell a lot about me. So I could feel your pain. You know, I remember one of those times you came to meet me to tell me that this pastor said I shouldn't get married to. I was recommending somebody for you in church. You know? I really was hot. But however, these were spiritual figures who were discouraging you from getting married to me. And I as well, like you said, I did not try to convince you to marry me.
He didn't.
You know, I remember that time I told you, I said, this pastor has said so and so. Well, I don't know what he heard, but follow me as I follow Christ. That's the statement I just told you to say to everything. And even my wedding, I invited him over to my wedding, not to pepper him, you know, but as a sign of honor, you know. So he probably was right. I don't know, but you get, but you know, so in this phase where everybody, they were discouraging you because there are other ladies who are currently in your shoes as well too. And it seems like they are just the only ones standing by the guy and nobody seems to be standing with them, you know, and they heard God. What kept you going?
First of all, I just want to say this out there, that the mentors who declined on what I wanted, they were not bad.
No,
because,
they were not bad.
But what I came to realize from my experience is that sometimes some pastors or mentors can be in flesh and not spirit. You know, when it comes to marriage, it takes more than being logical to be led.
Yeah, even Eli missed the voice of God when God came to his house and spoke to Samuel. So it was on the third time he was able to identify and say, this is the voice of God. And he says, Samuel, when you hear the voice, say, speak, Lord, speak, for your servant hears.
Yes.
So it took him 3 times for him to hear. So hearing the voice of God, anybody really can miss it. But that doesn't mean that they are not spiritual.
Yes,
so it could be that flesh,
was louder than spirit in that season of their life.
Yes. You understand.
Yes.
And looking at my condition, any man of God will like to speak from flesh.
Any man or parent, because they were humanly they were humanly concerned for me.
Yes.
I was convinced in my spirit.
Yes.
Because the truth is, flesh could have also failed me. Arm of flesh will fail you. Looking at your condition, to be very honest, physically and financially and all that, you couldn't have ticked the box, because
That's true.
I wasn't the kind of girl that was stranded with people to ask her out. I wasn't, and I had a lot of box people. People were boxed up around me, but I was convinced because I had God. Number one, I was friends with you. I saw a man who wasn't pretending to be who is not. So that was first of all a good point for me. Then number 2, I already had a relationship with God. So I heard him very clearly tell me that this guy, I saw your future. Even though I didn't have to speak about your future to you, what I knew. I had a knowing in my spirit that you will be a great person. So that was what I hinged on. And I said yes, regardless of my mentors.
This is key. Proverbs 3 verse 5. It says,
trust in the Lord.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart.
All.
And lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge me and I will direct your paths. This can be a major problem. Trusting God with all your heart.
Yes.
I mean, no residue.
Yes.
No going back.
Yes.
You are trusting God with all your heart.
Yes. Yeah. I had so much conviction that my mom in particular, because my mom was my very close parent. I've always been very close to my mom than my dad, and then she had to pray. My mom also received the revelation that you are the one for me, that you'll be a great person. So I didn't even have to wait for her revelation to be convinced. I heard God, even when every other person had, declined on it, and they're like, what are you doing now, really? I knew for myself that you were the one. You were the one for me. And so that's it. So that's what helped me through my fear. Even after hearing from God, did I still have fear? Yes. But I afraidedly said yes. Knowing that I wasn't using my flesh.
Yeah. For me, I think that the journey of marriage, the fear is constant until the day, the day after marriage. Even on the day of your marriage, the fear is there.
The fear is there.
Sometimes people feel that fear is the absence of God's presence. I usually say fear sometimes as well could be that God is involved. And it's just that it's so, the presence of God is so, should I use the word enormous?
Yeah, so it can be enormous, yeah.
Yeah, it's so much
tangible.
Yeah, it's so tangible on you. The reality of what you're entering is so tangible on you that it's like a spiritual body, and it's just there like, God, how can I pilot this affair?
Yeah, true.
Working with you, not knowing where I'm going to.
True.
That what happened to Abraham.
Yes.
So Abraham was sure that it was God that spoke to him. But the problem was that he was going to a land.
Yes, that he didn't know.
He doesn't know anything about it, and he's just working with God at every step of the way. You say that can be fearful.
That's a good fear. In fact, I want us to say this, right? The truth is that some people also say that fear, that when you're scared, it means that you don't have faith. But I like to define faith as fear emotion.
Yes.
So I was fear emotion, fear in action. So if I was scared and sad, and then that's a lack of faith. But when I was scared, I moved. So that's faith. Faith is fear in action, fear in motion.
Yeah. So getting married is fear emotion.
Fear emotion, yes.
Saying yes is fear emotion.
Fear emotion.
That's really lovely.
Yes.
So let's run the 5 points you just said in this podcast.
In concise form.
Beautiful ones. Number 1, relationship. You need to check. Every lady needs to check his relationship with God.
Yes,
because it matters. You need to be sure that. That's one thing my wife saw in me. She was sure that I had a very good relationship with God.
Yes.
So that really, really matters. Because the Bible says, can two walk together except they agree?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Amos 3:3.
Yes.
So the beauty of having a solid relationship with God is that when you get into relationship or partnership with this person, both of you can agree as touching a lot of things.
True, very true.
Agree as touching your settlement. So it's very, very important.
Yes.
So the person may not have anything doing now, but however, you both can agree on God concerning what you want.
Yes.
So it's important that the person has very good relationship with God.
Very good relationship
then
with
number
God.
2, the person should have very good character both in private and in public.
Very true.
Yeah, it does matter.
Very
So
true.
the Bible says a good name is better than riches. So you can be disanointed, have the power of the Holy Ghost at work in your life, but if you don't have good character, trust me, that girl will not give you a yes.
That's true.
If your story is that you go from one sister to the other to the other in church, you know those days.
You're an anointed flex.
Yeah, I was the singles coordinator those days, and my church had very beautiful ladies, and there was no record of such, in my life and in my ministry. And you did your own research as well too, because they called me Minister of Women Affairs, because I was always with the ladies in church. But then I ministered well.
He ministered with integrity.
Yeah. So we talked about number 3, that his purpose and his direction must matter.
Yes, his purpose and direction must matter. That's why I also said, you spoke about your vision and it's synced. You were running with it. Yeah. You were not trying to tell me today that this is your purpose and tomorrow that's your purpose. You were consistent with what you were saying.
Yeah.
You were consistent with it. So there was nothing like today, this is it. I wasn't confused about who you were or where you were going. I was really I was sure, I was clear about it. Yes.
Yeah. So Proverbs 29 verse 18 said, where there is no vision, the people perish. Yeah. So even in relationship, where there's no vision, where the leader doesn't have vision, then the relationship would perish.
That's true.
So that's why you see the lady keep asking, where are we going?
Yes.
When are we going to get married?
Yes.
What's the plan?
Yes.
So I had a goal. I told you when we're going to get married.
Yes.
Just imagine playing football without a goal.
That's true.
So nobody will score.
Yes, that's true.
I don't know when the game will end.
Yes.
And it's going to be stressful on everybody because you just keep playing and keep playing and playing. But the beauty of what we had was that I had a goal, I had a vision.
Yes.
I knew I was going to get married to you. I knew I was going to settle down.
Yes.
I told you a lot of our plans, and they're all materializing today.
Yes. And of course, you also gave me room where, as a helper that I am, the role I was coming to play in your life was clear.
Yes.
Because if a man's purpose is not clear, his idea where it's going to is not clear to a woman, she wouldn't know how she's coming to support. She'll just be it's like she's just hanging. She's not sure where she's really going to with him. So that's meaning and then a man defining where he's going to is safety for a woman. I tell men who come for counseling that safety for a woman, a responsible Christian woman, is not just in finance, it's in definition of your purpose.
Yeah, true.
When your purpose is not properly defined, she's unsafe with you. She doesn't know where she's coming to help you, how she's coming to help you, when she's coming to help you.
True.
She's not knowledgeable enough in that regard. She has nothing to search about because she doesn't even know what you're really doing.
Yeah.
So that's it. So purpose makes partnership clear.
Yeah. So number 4, we said is emotional and financial maturity matters. You checked out for my emotional maturity. You checked out for my financial maturity, how I could manage my finance and my home, before I got into my...
Yes. Yeah, emotional and financial maturity, Yes. We talked about it earlier. Emotional maturity, the ability to have self-control. Yeah. You're not someone who was dig-dalling, moving up and down from one lady to another. You had you knew the person you wanted to get married to, and you were in tune with the person. Yes. You were not having a divided heart, And then for financial maturity, one of the things that made me love you and got me really stayed with you beyond attraction was you were not trying to use your ego to rule when it comes to finance. Yeah. You were one that was already broken before I met you. Yeah. You told yourself that, my weakness is spending anyhow, extravagant in your spending. So I remember when we started our counseling, you made it clear to our pastor that was in charge that, my wife will have to be the one to, when it comes to paying
Finance,
bills and all of that. So you were not that kind of man that, because at the time I met you, you were really working hard. You were working, you were doing, you're doing business. So you already told yourself that, and you had seen it in me that, this lady saves a lot. She's wise and spending the period we were cutting. So you made it clear that I was going to be a financial manager. It shocked me the day we were doing counseling when Pastor asked who is going to be the financial manager in the house, and you just quickly said yes. You didn't even think for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's something you had already taught yourself, you had observed, and you said this is it. So you were financially secure. Yeah. So you were financially secure. You were financially mature. That's financial maturity.
True.
Ability to know your weakness around finance. I know that this person has a better capacity to handle our finance, even though she wasn't the one making the money.
Yeah. True. Finally, his view of you and women. So ladies, you need to check what's his view of you and women. I think that that really, really matters as well too. I think you talked about that and how that I was secured around you. Not many men are like that.
True.
Not many men are like that. Yeah.
That's true. So his view of how he sees women is very key. There are men who have very funny mindsets. They cannot imagine a woman do better than them. Yeah. They cannot stand it. Yes. They can't see a woman receive a higher salary. They can't see a woman, be higher than them in life, It's not possible. True. So there are women in fact, I actually met a guy that was like that. He told me, we're just having a casual conversation. And then he said to me, once a lady starts receiving a salary higher than him, he can't take it. He'll tell her to quit her job. He said it was just a casual conversation. Me, I had to flee because he was already asking me out. I had to run for my life, because I already saw insecurity signs. So, but for you, I remember vividly at the time we were already going out, you would say to me that, I remember when I called you and I'm like, oh, I'm in the conference, I need to speak. They're asking me to speak in a conference. You would tell me, you even research, you send me a message, you were supportive. You went as far as when we're in a relationship, that's when you told me that, I don't want a woman who is just in the four walls of my kitchen. I want a woman whose name will be out there. Yeah. A high flyer. And I was surprised because I'd already had some experience with other guys. I'm like, wow, coming from a guy like this. So you were secure. Your mindset about women wasn't just a woman who should cook for you. And if a man is out there watching and has a mindset, there's nothing wrong. Everybody has their mindset. You know what? Yeah. But you said you do not want a woman who will just cook for you. You want a woman who is out there. Whether you are a man, you told me that whether you're a man or you're a woman, God has given you a purpose in life. And I want to see it. Even when we're going out, what was consistent in our conversation was, Amuli, who do you want to become? Who do you want to be out there? Who do you want to be this? That's what you kept on telling me. You would give me materials to read. I remember vividly you were very supportive. So I knew from onset that you were not the kind of man that want to enslave me. You were not the kind of man that want me to just sit down there doing nothing. You were secure enough. You had a good thought towards me. You wanted to see me make progress beyond just getting married to you. And that was safety in itself. When a man is secure, when a man has a good mindset, this is safety in itself. Because a man can be rich but not secure in making a woman progress. Yes. A man can be rich but have a wrong mindset when it comes to this. Yeah.
So to crown that off, Ephesians 5 verse 25, it said, husband, love your wives as Christ loves the church. Maybe we'll take this as theory, but it's absolutely true.
True, yeah.
We should now ask ourselves, how did Christ love the church? Christ loved us while we were sinners. Christ loved us in our imperfections. Christ loved us by losing his heavenly glory to come in the likeness of a man.
That's true.
To be like us, to live with us, so that he can die for us.
That's true.
So Apostle Paul is saying now that we should love our wives like that. So what it means is that we are stripping ourselves of our glory just to serve our wives. And that is why we are called the bridegroom.
That's true.
So it's not just a title, it's an office that we take as bridegroom. So our responsibility is to groom our bride, in the image of Christ, and to see that it progress. It becomes an error for you to be in a relationship with somebody and 6 months, 1 year after, we're not seeing visible improvement in their spiritual life, in their growth, and also in their purpose and in their assignment.
That's true.
It becomes a problem.
That's
so
true.
if the only thing you can give a woman in a relationship is sex, then you don't have value. You're not a bridegroom.
That's true.
So that is the assignment that God gave us, that we should place so much value on our wives. On our wives. So he expects us to love our wives as Christ loves the world.
Yeah.
It calls for work.
It calls for a lot of work.
Yeah,
That's
it's
true.
enough sacrifice.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Because to
okay.
head a home is not just to sit and say I'm the head. You don't speak position. Your position should speak.
Yeah, you lead. Yeah, so guys, thank you so much. I'm sure you guys had an amazing time with us today. Do have to drop your questions on the comment section and we will respond to you.
Yes.
Yeah, so whatever question you have, we're going to respond to you. And in the next time edition, we are going to address your questions as well too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are the Winlos.
Winlos.
God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.